Hello and welcome back to another Rush Duel Links video. Today what we do is we talk about some of the decks that I'm really looking forward to coming to Duel Links in the future. These are some of my favourite decks from the OCG that when they do come into Duel Links should be a ton of fun, especially when you consider that we'll have some skills thrown in to make these decks even stronger theoretically. So we're going to be taking a look at 5 decks that I would really like to see come to Duel Links sooner rather than later, 5 decks that I'm really looking forward to playing. Now, as a bit of a caveat, if a deck is already a deck in Duel Links, we won't really be talking about that with like a little bit of bending that rule in the very first one. So let's jump in and talk about the first deck on this list. And the first deck I want to talk about is Lightning Voltcondor. So this was sort of a deck back when Rush Duel first came to Duel Links, but really it was just kind of one card. I don't know if we could really call that a deck. It doesn't really have a skill, but it's a really bad skill. This does get another wave of support in the future, and I'm really talking about that when it actually becomes a real deck. Because before that, Light Voltcondor was never really an actual deck, it was more of just an okay card. So this card itself, I mean, it's not great, right? Level 7, only 2200 attack, that's pretty bad. We have to send a monster from our hand to the graveyard, that's pretty bad. And we can only reduce the attack of our opponent's monsters that are the same attribute as the card we sent, which is pretty bad, because that means we either need to have a bunch of different attribute high-level monsters in our deck, or we need a way to change our opponent's monsters to light. So either way, very, very restrictive, and very, very frustrating to use efficiently. But some of the cards we do get in the future do help this out. One of those being Flash Volt Chicks. This is a level 4 monster. We can send one light attribute winged beast type monster from your hand to the graveyard to draw 1 card. Then if you sent level 7 monster to the graveyard its requirement, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So this might just look like, discard a card, draw a card, sometimes we mill 3, and that's exactly what it is. But the stats on this aren't awful. 1200, 1000 is fine, especially if you're worried about being changed to attack or being pierced over. And we basically use this to just get rid of the excess level 7s. Typically that will be the Lightning Voltcondor itself. But filling the graveyard is actually really, really strong, and the further through Rush we go, the more that's going to become apparent. We'll have more and more cards that get cards back from the graveyard, and more cards that have cost that require you to shuffle cards from your graveyard back into your deck, so filling the graveyard is generally a really good strategy. So Voltchick, fantastic first card. Next up we have Spark Volt Egg. This one does further the strategy a bit more. So this is a 0 attack, 0 defense level 4 monster. We can shuffle 1 light attribute monster from your graveyard into the deck. This turn, this face-up card can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a light attribute winged beast type monster in attack position. So we get to get a discount on our Voltcondor, which is pretty good. Then we can add a Lightning Voltcondor from your graveyard to your hand. So this is really, really good. First off, we're shuffling a card from our graveyard back into our deck, so we're not losing anything. Then we get a free plus off of this card first off. And it's sort of a plus if you kind of squint at it, because we do get a discount on a boss monster. And if we do have that Voltcondor in the graveyard, we guaranteed have that boss monster, so we can just tribute this and summon out that 2200 Lightning Voltcondor. But if we have any of our other bosses, we can get out those as well. So absolutely fantastic card, and a really, really important part of the deck. Especially because we can use Voltegg to put other Volteggs back into our deck, so we always have access to it, which is really, really good. Next up, our first new boss, Lightning Volt Kite, and I will preface this by saying this card has never really seen a ton of play. This is kind of the extra boss. But if you have a face-up, level 7, light attribute winged beast type monster face-up on your field, you can special summon this card from your hand face-up to your field. So you get to summon this for free. That in itself is okay, right? We get a 2300 body, but it's a free 2300 body. And if we have 10 or more cards in your deck and have Lightning Voltcondor face up on the field, we get to draw 1 card. So as you can see, we want to have that Lightning Voltcondor out, then we summon this as a 23, that gives us a 22 and a 23, and we get a free draw. That's okay, but again, nothing special. And then here we have the true boss of the deck, Lightning Volt Eagle. So if you have a face-up level 7 light attribute winged beast monster face up on your field, you can special summon this card from your hand face up to your field. So again, a free 2500 body, a lot more attractive. If we have a Lightning Voltcondor face up on a field, we can send the top card of the deck to the graveyard, and this card can attack twice this turn. Now notably, that's not 2 attacks on monsters, so we can just attack our opponent directly twice, which is really, really good. If we're able to, for example, get out a Lightning Voltcondor, summon out 2 Volt Eagles, well then we have 5 attacks coming at our opponent, which could be really, really powerful, especially in Duel Links. Now remember, if we don't get a brand new skill, we would still be using the old skill, which can change your opponent's monsters to light, which is like, okay, it's nothing crazy, but it's like fine. But I would expect us to get a new skill with these cards, and I can't wait to see what kind of skill they would give us. I mean, the deck already does so much that it needs. All we really need is a skill that could like throw Voltcondor into the graveyard and everything gets going. So if we got something like that, I think this would be a really, really cool deck. The last boss monster I want to talk about is Thunderbolt the Echoing Thunder. So during the turn that you normal summon this card, we can special summon a level 7 light attribute wing beast type monster from your graveyard face up to your field. So this is obviously really good because we could get back the Voltcondor itself, which does turn everything else on, or we could get something like a Volt Eagle, which is also just a really strong boss monster. Then you can make up to 3 face-up monsters on your opponent's field become light attribute until the end of this turn. So that is really powerful, because the idea is we want to ideally get out a Thunderbolt, then we get out our Voltcondor, use Voltcondor effect to weaken our opponent's entire board, ideally down to 0. Then we can go into something like a Volt Eagle and then just OTK our opponent. So there is a lot we can do with this card. It's really strong. I think a lot of people usually forget about Thunderbolt when they think about this deck, but it's definitely a key combo piece of the deck. Now we'll be moving on to the next deck, and that is Sky Savior. So Sky Savior is a deck that I really gelled with really early, but this deck does have kind of a stigma attached to it, and we'll talk about that when we get to the problematic card. But first things first, we have Dunkus the Sky Savior. So Sky Savior, first off I should preface, is a deck that has lots of modular fusions. We can fuse different monsters together from the archetype to make different fusion monsters, sort of similar to Elemental Heroes in that regard, but this is the first one. So we can reveal up to 5 Celestial Warrior type monsters with different names in your extra deck, so that's obviously quite easy to do. We just put 5 different names in there, bam, we use the effect. This card gains attack equal to the number of monsters revealed to meet the requirement times 200 to the end of this turn. So this 1300 goes up to 2300, which is actually not bad for just a level 4 monster. But this turn, this card cannot attack directly, and you can only attack with Celestial Warriors, Warriors, and Fairies. So not the greatest effect, it is very restrictive, but this card is fine, and like we say, this is part of our fusion material, so it is integral for the deck. Next up we have Ciela the Sky Savior Knight, and this card was limited 1 until very recently in the OCG. So its stats are a little bit low with only 1100 attack, but we can reveal up to 5 Celestial Warrior type monsters with different names in our extra deck. 1 face-up monster on the opponent's field loses attack equal to the number of cards revealed times 200. Then you can only attack with Celestial Warriors, Warriors, and Fairies. So this card is a lot better. Reducing your opponent's attack can be really powerful. Just having a level 4 that can reduce your opponent's attack by 1000 is really good. And this did see some tech play in non-Sky Savior decks, because obviously the restrictions are harsh, only being able to attack with Celestial Warriors, Warriors, or Fairies. But if your deck is a Warrior deck anyway, for example, you could just summon this, just have 5 Celestial Warriors that you never intend to summon in the extra deck, and just reduce your opponent's monster by 1000, which is already not bad for just a level 4 normal summon. So again, really good card. Then we have Lure the Sky Savior Angel. So this is one of the 2 Angel cards, and these cards are interesting because they can change their name. So we can reveal 1 Warrior type monster in your hand. This card's name becomes Soliel the Sky Savior Angel this turn, so it changes from Lure to Soliel. Then send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, so again, milling is good. Then you can add a fusion from among the cards sent to the graveyard by this effect to your hand. So we do have to mill the fusion then and there, which is a little bit annoying, but it's fine. We'll probably be playing 3 fusion with this deck. This doesn't strike me as a sort of deck that would get a skill that would allow them to only play the 1 fusion. This kind of seems like a deck we want to be playing 3 anyway. But next up, we have Soliel the Sky Savior Angel. So Soliel, just like Lure, can change its name into Lure. Soliel can become Lure, Lure can become Soliel, so we can change our name effectively to try and dig for fusion, but also to change our name so that we can go into a different fusion monster. So very important effects. But then this one excavates the top 4 cards of our deck, and we can add an excavated fusion to our hand, place the remaining cards on the bottom of the deck in any order. Now this is a very important effect because we're stacking cards at the bottom of the deck in any order. We theoretically, if we use this effect enough times, and there is another similar effect like this in the archetype as well, we can start to memorize the order of cards that we put to the bottom of our deck. So if we do deep draw far enough, theoretically we could start to know the order of our cards, and this is something that did come up a little bit in the OCG. The next up we'll talk about one of the spell cards. This is Sky Savior Witness, so we can reveal 2 Warrior and or Fairy monsters from your hand, excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 card to your hand, then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. This turn, your level 8 or lower monsters cannot attack, and your opponent takes no effect damage. So this card's actually really powerful. Again, this is a card that manipulates the bottom of our deck, so we can use this to try and stack it. This is a really good card apart from that very last line, right, which is your level 8 or lower monsters cannot declare an attack. So we're only really going to use this if we're only planning to attack with fusion monsters that turn, but other than that, it's a pretty decent consistency tool. Now we'll go on to our first fusion. This is Dig Race, the Sky Savior Radiance. This is made using Dunkus and Soliel. We can send the top card of a deck to the graveyard. This card gains attack equal to the number of face-up Celestial Warrior type monsters on your field times 1000. Obviously, if we have itself, it goes up to 37. If we have a second Sky Savior boss, this will become 47. That's pretty good. Or, this turn, this card can make up to 2 attacks on monsters, and this is a good way to beat set 3 pass. We can just use this to attack over 2 monsters, and then attack with a second monster over their third monster, and then our last monster can attack directly. That is a way to get damage in. It's not the flashiest boss monster out of all of these fusions, but it's pretty okay. Next up we have Solcia the Sky Savior Light Flash, so this is made using Ciela and Soliel. We can place one other card from our field on the bottom of the owner's deck. That's quite an interesting requirement, having to put a card from our field on the bottom of the deck, but we can destroy spell traps on the opponent's field up to the number of face-up Celestial Warrior type monsters on our field. So being able to put 1 or 2 back row, obviously a really strong effect. And obviously this sort of effect is going to be similar to something like Burst Wingman, which is a really powerful fusion monster. The other effect is that we can add Sky Savior Symbol from your graveyard to your hand. Symbol didn't really see a lot of play, so I'm not really going to mention it here, but it's an equip spell that doesn't really do a ton. But this card's still pretty good for popping your opponent's back row. Next up we have my personal favourite. This is Druckmore the Sky Savior Phantoms. This is made using Dunkus and Lure, and it has a continuous effect that face-up cards on your field cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Now, in the OCG, we have a lot more traps that destroy cards. We don't have that as much in Duel Links, but by the time this comes out, we never know, we might have them. This card is really cool because its artwork is amazing, 2900 attack, again, really good, and a continuous effect gives it protection, also really good. I really do like Druckmore, and there's not really much more to say about it, it's just a really nice card. And then last but not least, we do have the problematic card. So this is Altiera the Sky Savior Transients, made using Ciela and Lure. Your opponent cannot activate normal spell cards, except fusion. So this is kind of a problematic card. Now at the time when this came out, this was a really harsh floodgate, and a lot of people really didn't enjoy playing against this because spells played a very pivotal role in how the games work. Now we do have a lot more trap cards in the OCG, and this card doesn't seem as powerful, and your opponent can still activate obviously fusion spell, they can activate ritual spells because ritual spells aren't normal spells, so there is a lot of things you can still do under this card, so it's not as powerful as it once was. Next up, we'll talk about deck number 3, and this is Blaze Fiends. Blaze Fiends is a really cool deck, and it's had several waves of support now. It had its first initial wave of support where the deck didn't really accomplish much. The cards looked awesome, the card effects were pretty cool, but the deck really struggled to really do much of anything, and it's a bit of a shame. So this is a maximum deck. But this is a really cool deck, and I would really like this to come to Duel Links sooner than later, ideally with the next wave of maximums that we should be getting with Phaser, whenever that ends up being. But I would really like to see this deck get a skill that does make it playable, because this deck really has never had its time in the sun, and I think Duel Links could be the place where we can see it thrive. So first up, we have Blaze Fiend Overlords Belakataroth L. So while in maximum mode, this card cannot be destroyed in battle with a normal monster, and notably this is a level 4 monster. So that's pretty good. It means that if we do just draw this early, we can just set it and ideally try and get it back to our hand with other spells and effects, so we don't have to just hoard it in our hand as like a high level monster. Next up we have Belakataroth's middle piece, which is again a level 4 monster. We can see that its maximum attack is only 3000, and that reduction in attack is basically because all of the pieces are level 4. But while in maximum mode, we can increase this card's level by 6, so it becomes a level 10. Also, it cannot be destroyed by the opponent's trap card effects. So it can't be killed by battle, can't be killed by traps. Okay, pretty good so far, and 3000 attack is okay. And then we get to the right piece. While in maximum mode, send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. This turn it gains 600 attack, so that'll become 36. And if it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage, which means that is a way to get through set 3. Now, you're not going to be OTKing anyone with this, because realistically, 36 piercing is not going to win the game on the spot, but it's not a bad way to get through set 3. Next up, we'll talk about the other maximum that this deck has. This is Doomblaze Fiend Overlord Desperation. The Desperation is a really cool looking boss monster at the very least, I'll tell you that much. I do really like these cards, but again, they were never really that great. They have recently received a lot more support, including some rituals, which has made the deck feel a bit more competitive, but back when they first released, unfortunately these cards are not very good. But this card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's trap card effects, and then, if this card is in maximum mode, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's spell effects. So notably, this is a level 10 monster that does get its effect even when not in maximum mode, but does get a bonus effect if it is in maximum mode. Next up we have the middle piece, which is send 2 maximum monsters from your hand to the graveyard. Now again, we're going to have all of our level 4 maximums and all of our level 10 maximums, so we should have plenty of maximum pieces, but then we can destroy 1 card on the opponent's field. And notably, we can use this effect when not in maximum mode, but then, if this card is in maximum mode, we then get to draw 2 cards. And 4000 maximum attack is more what we're used to seeing on like a big maximum. But this card's really cool. If this card is in maximum mode, 4000 attack, we get to discard 2, pop 1 card, so that can be a monster or a spell trap, and then draw 2. So that in itself is already really good. And then we have the right piece. Neither player can special summon level 7 monsters from the hand or graveyard. Also, if this card's in maximum mode, your opponent cannot set monsters from the hand. So This is sort of the way the deck beats set 3, right? Because if we get rid of all our opponent's monsters and then they have to play additional monsters, they can't set them, so they have to play them in attack mode. So if they can't destroy our 4000 attack maximum, we can start attacking over their now attack position monsters to get damage in. Which is fine, but it can be a bit slow. If your opponent sets 3, for example, we then have to summon out our maximum, pop one of them, then attack over another. And then on the next turn, our opponent only has one set monster, and they can't set any other monsters from their hand, which means if they don't set anything, we just pop their monster and attack them directly, or they have to start summoning an attack position. So it's a little bit slow, but it does kind of get the job done. It's an interesting maximum, it's an interesting way to beat set 3, but again, unfortunately, it was never really that powerful. Celeb Rose. Celeb Rose is a really cool fusion deck that does utilize equip spells. This is a really cool combo deck, and is meant to be like a light-themed version of Yuga's Seven's Road deck, so a lot of the cards are going to have very similar names. So instead of Seven's Road Mage, here we have Celeb Rose Mage. The decks are meant to sound quite similar. So this card is, if we have a Celeb Rose Magician or an equip spell in our graveyard during the turn that we normal summon this card, we can add Charis Magic Scepter Death Wand or Fusion from your graveyard to your hand. Now again, this is a very fusion-centric deck, so it does make sense whatever way to get that back. But what is Charis Magic Scepter Death Wand? Well, that is the equip spell of the deck, the primary one at the very least. So this is an equip spell that we can equip to a light attribute spellcaster type monster on our field. The equip monster gains 400 attack, okay, not a huge boost, but it's okay, and cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Again, this is a lot more relevant in OCG, but will be more relevant in the future in Duel Links. If the equip monster is a fusion monster, it gains 600 more attack, and there we go, that is actually a really good effect. So if we give this to a fusion, it gains 1000 attack, and can't be destroyed by card effects, that is actually really, really strong. Next up, we'll talk about Celeb Rose Sorcerer, so 1300 attack, okay, that's not bad. We can send 3 face-up light attribute spellcaster monsters from our field to the graveyard to special summon a light attribute spellcast type monster with 2500 or less attack from your graveyard face-up to your field. Then you can set 1 Charis Magic Scepter Death Wand from your graveyard to your spell and trap zone. So we get any of our monsters from the graveyard effectively, and then we also get back the equip spell as well, which is pretty good. This card in the future as well, with some of the later support the deck got, was able to facilitate some loops, which did create some interesting gameplay in the more modern versions of the deck. Next up, Celeb Rose Witch. This is one of the key pieces of the deck, and really this card is required to make anything really happen. So if you have a Celeb Rose Magician in your graveyard, you can send a light attribute spellcast type monster or 1 spell card from your hand to the graveyard to special summon a Celeb Rose Magician or 1 level 9 or lower spellcaster type fusion monster from your graveyard face up to your field. So this card is really important because this is how we usually get access to that Celeb Rose Magician. Celeb Rose Magician and Celeb Rose Witch are the 2 primary fusion material to go into our bosses, but if we already have a fusion boss in the graveyard, we can get that back instead. This is very similar to Strange Witch that we have in the game right now in the Seven's Road deck. And then here it is, the Celeb Rose Magician, which is meant to be kind of the alter ego to Seven's Road Magician. 2100 attack, 1500 defense. Send 1 face-up equip spell from your field to the graveyard to destroy 1 face-up level 8 or lower monster on the opponent's field. Then if you have 3 or more spell cards in your graveyard, this card gains 700 attack to the end of the turn. But this effect is okay, right? Obviously it only pops level 8 or lower, which is not ideal. We do have to give up an equip spell to do it as well, so it's not the best effect, but it does come up occasionally. Usually we just use this as a body to fuse into our big fusion monsters to make our big plays, but this effect does come up occasionally and it can be really useful. And now we'll talk about our first boss monster, Celeb Rose Luxury Magician. So a level 10 monster, 3200 attack, made using Celeb Rose Magician and Celeb Rose Witch. So the effect is that we can special summon 1 level 9 or lower light attribute spellcaster type monster from your graveyard to your field in face up defense position. Then, if this card is equipped with an equip spell, this card can make up to 2 attacks on monsters this turn. So very, very powerful effect. Obviously it's level 10, which means it can't summon other copies of itself, and which also means that Celeb Rose Witch can't bring us back from the graveyard, but this card is really, really strong. So again, if we have an equip spell attached to it, this will become a 4200 attack monster that can make 2 attacks on monsters that can't be destroyed by card effects, which is already just really, really strong. This is probably the better of the 2 fusion monsters, and this is obviously a great way to beat set 3. The other fusion boss is Celeb Rose Fabulous Magicians, and again, we're only really showing cards from the initial first wave, because those are the cards that are more likely to come into Duel Links. There are obviously a lot more cards in all of these archetypes, but this card is pretty good. We can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. I mean, that's not a great requirement, but we can destroy 1 face-up monster on the opponent's field. Now, any monster is really good. We can pop a maximum with this, as long as the maximum doesn't have protection from monsters. We can pop a fusion, it's absolutely fantastic. And then we can add an equip spell from your graveyard to your hand. So theoretically as well, we can go into Celeb Rose Fabulous Magicians early, and later on, we can go into our other fusion boss, Luxury Magicians. Luxury Magicians can then bring back Fabulous Magicians from the graveyard, and then Fabulous Magician can get us back that equip spell. Now, if we do it in that order, it becomes a little awkward because then we don't already have the equip spell for Luxury Magicians, so we can't get the double attack, but we can still get access to the equip spell, so it's actually not that bad. But Fabulous Magicians, again, not as good as Luxury Magicians in my opinion, but still pretty good. And last but not least, the fifth deck I want to talk about is probably my favorite Rush deck of all time. This is Agents. So originally these cards were called Secret Investigators, as you can see on the card image up there. Unfortunately, they changed their name to Agent, and I don't really know why. So the whole thing is they're a reptile archetype. So they were called Secret Investigators because a gator is an alligator as in a reptile, right? That was the pun. But now they're just called Agents, which I think is a little bit awkward. I don't really like it as much, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So in the anime, the Agents are played by Mitsuko, or she's Terra in Duel Links in the English version. And the whole gimmick is that she's obsessed with the number 3. So most of the monsters in this archetype are level 3 and have 1300 attack and 300 defense. It's kind of the kind of theme they have. During the main phase, this card was normal or special summoned. We can excavate the top 3 cards of our deck. We can add an excavated level 3 or higher reptile type monster to our hand, place the remaining cards on top of the deck in any order. So this is just a free +1. It's absolutely fantastic. As long as we don't whiff, it's just always going to be a +1, and a +1 is always really, really good. Mistake is absolutely fantastic. Then we have Agent Mismatch. So again, same stats, same level. If your opponent has a face-up level 7 or higher monster on the field, we can send a level 3 or lower reptile type monster from our hand to the graveyard to special summon a level 7 reptile monster from your graveyard to your field in face-up attack position. So again, just being able to get back a boss is always really, really good, and this card is fine. It's nothing like super crazy, but it is a really strong card. Then we have Agent Mislead, and this is our way to beat set 3. So if we have another face-up reptile type monster on our field, we can pay 300 life points to change one face-down defense position monster on either side of the field to face-up attack position. Then this card loses 1300 attack until the end of the turn. So we'll put our attack down to 0, so ideally we want to use this and then tribute it off to get out one of our bosses, and then we just basically get to get in for a load of damage. So it's still pretty good, it's a little bit awkward, but still really good. And then we have Miscast. So notably, this card only has 300 attack and defense, but if you have no other monsters on your field, you can pay 300 life points, send the top 3 cards of deck to the graveyard. Again, milling is always good. Then if a reptile type monster is among the cards sent, you can add a light attribute reptile type monster from your graveyard to your hand. So ideally, if you don't really have a boss, you'll grab back a boss so you can tribute over the Miscast you don't really want on the board. But if not, you could grab, for example, a Mistake. So we could summon out Miscast, Miscast gets a Mistake, then we can summon out Mistake, Mistake gets us another card, and we just get the plus, 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 plus. And that's what this deck really likes to do, just likes to gain a load of advantage. Next up, we'll talk about our first boss monster, Elite Secret Investigator Mystery, or Mystery is it meant to be, but they're all puns, So 2300 attack, not great. We can shuffle 2 other face-up reptile type monsters from your field and 1 card from your hand into Fiona's deck. Very, very steep requirement there. This card gains 300 attack. Wow, 2600 attack. Then you can special summon up to 2 level 7 or higher reptile type monsters from your hand and or graveyard to your field. So that's why this card is so expensive, because we can get out 2 boss monsters from the graveyard or hand, which can be really, really powerful. And the best monster to summon off this is always going to be Python Princess of Purity. So this card is not really an agent card. It's not part of that archetype, but it is a light reptile, so it's sort of an unofficial member. And this is kind of the key boss monster of the deck. So again, 2500 attack, really good. We can send the top card of the deck to the graveyard. 1 face-up monster on your opponent's field loses attack equal to the number of face-up light attribute monsters on your field times 600 until the end of the turn. Now the whole deck is light monsters. So worst case scenario, we reduce their attack by 600. Best case scenario, we get it down by 1800, and that is a significant loss, which means you should be able to attack over just about anything. And then if we have 3 face-up monsters on our field, we get to draw 1 card. So again, we do just get that plus, and that's again what this deck does. We reduce our opponent's attack, we change the battle positions, we plus, we plus, we plus, we plus. We have as many cards as we need to go into as many different bosses as we need, and we just keep going. So I really, really like this deck. This is probably, like I say, my favorite Rush Duel deck of all time, and I really, really can't wait for this to come to Duel Links. The last card I want to talk about is a trap card, Secret File 33, Noble Death of Resentment. So when your opponent monster declares an attack, shuffle 3 level 3 or higher reptile monsters from your graveyard to the deck. The attacking monster loses 3000 attack. This is kind of the next level of combat tricks that we do get as we go forward. A 3000 attack reduction is obviously absolutely ridiculous, and if this came out in Duel Links right now, this would be completely bonkers. But there we go, those are the 5 decks that I would really love to see come to Duel Links sooner rather than later. I think all of these decks are they're really fun, they're really engaging to play, and I think with some Duel Links skills put on them, they could be unbelievably powerful. I think some decks specifically, like for example Blaze Fiend, could really, really do with a skill. Now they do have some more modern support that could come out early as well, and theoretically that could give it the boost it needs to just be playable. But in my opinion, Duel Links thrives, and it really fulfills its potential when we're able to take decks that weren't very good in the OCG and suddenly make them playable or meta relevant in this game. We have seen that time and time again throughout Duel Links history, especially in the last 2 years for Rush, and I would like to see that continuing going forward. And the best way to do that is by giving some cards early and by giving them a really good skill. So what do you think about these 5 decks? Would you like to see these cards come to Duel Links sooner rather than later? And what other decks do you know of from the OCG that you would love to see come? Please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear about it. But thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.